continuador de la leyenda de plata surgida en el siglo XX. Los medios de comunicación impresos y electrónicos lo siguen calificando como el número 1. Con ustedes, el rey del tope, el Hijo del Santo.
It's that time of year here on the Bride of Monster Kid Radio. This is the month of May, which means it is Lucha de Mayo here on the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes not so classic genre cinema of yesteryear. I am your host, writer, and producer, Derek M. Cook. Thrilled to have you here. Thank you for downloading the show, streaming the show, listening to the show, or watching the show. However it is you're absorbing the show, thank you for doing that, especially this month during Lucha de Mayo, because we are going to be digging into some luchador movies, some of which that I've never seen, including the movie we're talking about this week. I was a little surprised, actually, that Beth picked a movie that I had never seen before, a luchador film, to talk about here on the Bride of Monster Kid Radio. I'm talking about 1974's The Revenge of the Crying Woman. It's a Santo film. Oh, and speaking of which, the music that you heard at the beginning of the show that you can just barely hear underneath my voice right now is the song El Hijo de El Santo. It's from the band Los Daytonas. It's from their album Toublemaker. It came out in 2022, but man, it's still a great song. It's a great album. Go check them out at losdaytonas.bandcamp.com or find them on Facebook when you're done listening to this episode of The Bride of Monster Kid Radio. Really dig their music, and hey, you know, it's surf music. It's got a luchador theme. It's right at home here during Lucha de Mayo here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. Now, we're not just all about luchadors this week. No. Well, unless Mark Matzke is wearing a luchador mask when he's not recording for us, but that's between him and, well, his family. Mark Matzke's back this week with another installment of the Beta Capsule Review. And if I can quote the email he sent me, here's Ultraman Ace number 38, and it might be my favorite so far, a little Yuletide treasure. What does that mean? Well, you're going to find out here in a minute, because we're going to get to that, and then we're going to get to Beth and I talking about The Vengeance of the Crying Woman. Here we go.
Sewers come the slime people to kill. There is no escape from the slime people. The slime people. Nothing can stop the horror of the slime people. For a new adventure in terror, live through the wild bloodbath of the slime people. With lust they come, with vengeance and murder. See the nightmare of the slime people.
Coming soon, this June, it's the Monster Bash Conference at the Pittsburgh Marriott North in Cranberry Township. Fans of classic horror and science fiction films and TV will gather from across the United States and beyond. It's where you can meet and get autographs from movie and TV actors and actresses. This June 20th through the 22nd, 2025, meet Catherine Lee Scott and Sharon Smythe from the original Dark Shadows TV show, plus writer and zombie from the original Night of the Living Dead, John Russo, and the kids and grandkids of the original Universal Monsters, Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Dracula, the Wolfman, and the Mummy, Ron Chaney, Lynn Lugosi, Renee Browning. Also appearing, the Monsters movie grandpa Daniel Roebuck, TV horror host Son of Ghoul, an Ohio TV legend, and horror host Mr. Lobo. Renegade monster movie director David The Rock Nelson will be filming on site as well. You'll love shopping over 100 vendor tables featuring movie collectibles, DVDs, Blu-rays, vintage toys, vinyl records, monster magazines, comic books, and more to boggle your eyes. Rare film screenings, special talks, and live game shows where you can win great prizes. It's all part of Monster Bash at the Pittsburgh Marriott North, June 20th through the 22nd, 2025. For discounted advance admission, go to the website monsterbash.us. That's monsterbash.us. Or call 724-238-4317 for more information.
We love the Monster Bash. Woo!
Have something to share with Bride of Monster Kid Radio? You can email the show at monsterkidradio@gmail.com, or you can call and leave a voicemail at 360-524-2484.
Live from the Land of Light in Nebula M78, home of the mighty Ultra Heroes, it's Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review. Ultraman Ace, Episode 38, Resurrection, Father of Ultra. Christmas is coming, and Tokyo looks festive. Hokuto and the Umezus go shopping to bring presents to kids at a local orphanage. And when they deliver their gifts, they find a large styrofoam snowman that was left on the property under mysterious circumstances. The Christmas party, hosted by Hokuto in full tack regalia, comes to a screeching halt when Ms. Yukari, the orphanage administrator, looks outside to see the snowman crack open. Inside it is a monster who blinds her with a flash of light. Moments later, Danumezu observes a red-caped figure flying through the sky, which lands on the orphanage roof. Hailing everyone with a hearty Merry Christmas, he comes down the chimney to the delight of the children. Hokuto is suspicious, but a call from Tak interrupts. Snowman Terrible Monster Snowgirin is rampaging across the city, blinding people with its radiant rays. The terrible monster creates blizzard conditions that render Tak air support useless, so Ultraman Ace engages in battle, only to be severely beaten by Snowgirin. Only a miracle can prevent a Christmas tragedy. But don't forget, Santa Claus is on the scene. Episode 38, which very appropriately was broadcast on December 22nd, 1972, is a remarkable entry in the series, combining dazzling special effects with a story that explores the tension between Japanese and Western cultures through the lens of the Christmas holiday. It's truly fascinating to consider that Ultraman Ace and Father of Ultra are 100% pro-Christmas, while the spirit controlling Snowgirin wants to, and I quote, crush that westernized trash. The message sent by Ace is that Christmas is a good and should be celebrated in Japan, and this sense of openness has been reciprocated as generations of fans have celebrated Ultraman in the West. The icing on the cake is the surprise reappearance of a very familiar face who assists Santa in healing those blinded by Snowgirin's attack. It's Minami, summoned from the moon on a magical Christmas Eve. For Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review, this is Mark Matzke reporting.
Welcome to an evening with Karloff, the master of menace, in 5 fright-filled features. Watch breathlessly as the coffin opens to release the terror duck. It's only Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Join Boris Karloff in the most gruesome day of the undead, Black Sabbath. And there are 2 more chilling delights. Die, monster, die. And who knows? You may die, laughing at the comedy of terrors. 5 of Karloff's creepiest capers in nightmare colors. And you are invited.
Tonight, meet the twisted genius of Edgar Allan Poe. Experience a terrifying tale of druid witchcraft and the scream that kills. Cry of the Banshee. American International presents new heights in horror never before filmed. Vincent Price stars in this new adventure in terror and torture. Don't miss Cry of the Banshee. You'll learn to fear it. Rated GP.
This is Count Dracula, and I'm here to offer you a friendly warning. Derek and his guests often get excited, and occasionally this results in revealing key plot points of the movies they're discussing. You know how the children of the night, monster kids, can get sometimes. So consider yourself warned. And don't come begging to me to kill them for their transgressions afterward. I have more pressing issues to take care of, like that pesky Van Helsing.
It is week 1 of Lucha de Mayo 2025. I'm excited to get into some luchador movies and kicking things off by introducing my lovely wife to another subgenre of films that I really love. Luchador movies. Beth, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. And big week here now. We're recording this on May the 4th, so May the 4th be with everyone. But of course, it's coming out on Revenge of the 5th, which plays in nicely, as well as the upcoming holiday of Mother's Day plays in nicely. And tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo. So, just one banger of a holiday week here in Arizona, and of course to honor mothers and Cinco de Mayo and revenge and all of the above, we watched
The Revenge of the Crying Woman,
or La Venganza de la Reina, I believe.
Yes, this is a Santo film. Now, I know that I love luchador movies, and I talk about how much I love luchador movies. However, I've not seen them all.
True. I'd be impressed if you had, but
this is one I have never seen before. So this was a first-time watch for me.
Okay. First of all, it's a monster movie.
Yes. So
it's a proper monster movie.
What do you know about luchador movies?
Not a lot. I know that they can tend to be a little slapstick in the 60s Batman, Abbott and Costello meet the various monsters sort of a way.
Okay. So they started as straight, spy action movies.
Okay.
A little James Bond-like, but still kind of targeted to maybe a slightly younger audience. Mm-hmm. Then they started getting fancy with it.
Okay.
And that's when the monsters started showing up. And here on the show, whenever we do luchador movies, it's usually a monster movie of some sort. This year, we're doing things a little differently with the luchador movies, but I'm glad we kicked off with one that has monsters in it. Other luchador movies have had them just fighting the mob, fighting evil karate masters.
Oh, yeah, El Mafioso.
Yes, yes. Or like karate masters, or just
bad guys.
Yeah, just doing...
and we had some of those, too.
Sure. So we've seen luchadors over the years on Monster Kid Radio fight everything from Dracula to a Blob to Frankenstein or Frankenstein to various werewolves. We've seen them time travel. We've seen them fight each other. We've seen them do a lot. And of course, we've seen them fight mummies. And mummies seem to be a pretty big monster when it comes to a lot of Mexican folklore because, well, there's a lot of mummies in Mexico.
Culturally, the ancient people there mummified their dead. And so, yeah, you have that as a thing. In the same way that I'm sure Egyptians are like, mummies.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The mummies of Guanajuato being probably the most famous, being a tourist destination. I think it's still a tourist destination where you actually can go in and look at them. But of course, Santo and company have fought the mummies over the years as well. And that's what we got with this one. I didn't realize it was going to be a mummy movie until we started looking into this. I knew there was one that dealt with the lore or the legend of, and I can't pronounce it.
La Llorona.
And it happened to be this one, and then I discovered there's a mummy in it, which is great. This is Santo.
And let me tell you, when mummy ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
My boys.
My boys.
So there are what a lot of people call the big three, the three musketeers of luchador movies. Santo being the big guy.
Right.
The big gun, the number one, the saint. Blue Demon.
Okay.
Is sometimes considered equal to or maybe just underneath. Mm-hmm. And then No Mascaras. And No Mascaras is my guy. He's my favorite guy. Author Frank Schildener, who's been on the show in the past, has likened Santo to Superman.
Okay.
Blue Demon to Batman, and No Mascaras to Doc Savage.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's pretty apt, pretty accurate. I really like the three of them. No Mascaras is my dude. I know Kenny, who's going to be on the show later this month, loves Blue Demon. I like Santo. I like Santo a lot, but I feel like everybody loves Santo, and just my personality.
I know you like to find the niche
and the underdog.
Yeah,
the ones that don't always get all the attention.
Sure.
That said, I do love Santo.
This was pretty great.
Santo's a lot of fun. This one came out in the mid-'70s, 74.
And you can tell by the fashion.
and the music, and the hair, and everything else.
And the extensive use of theremin.
Yes. I loved that. So
that was very cool, yeah.
Something about this movie that really caught me is the music. I wish the soundtrack albums were available. I wish there was a way to get them because it's just so cool. Some of the more well-known monster mashup or monster rally films with the luchadors, I've heard the music described as like a broken down Zamboni or a possessed ice cream truck kind of music. But this has this nice 70s kind of thing going, and I loved it. And then
and the whole thing with La Llorona being a mother who sacrificed her children and now is killing other children to somehow avenge her own children. I don't know exactly how all that goes together, but she's wailing. And so using something like a theremin, which has a natural wail to it, it's just perfect.
Someday I want to own and learn how to play a theremin.
That'd be fun. I've also seen videos of cats playing with them on their feet. Excellent.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to see Wednesday playing a theremin. Getting down with the theremin would be fun. So the legend of
La Llorona.
What is that? If there was like a brief overview, what is that story?
The story is that you have in early New Spain times, when long before it was, Mexico, when it was still colonial and everything, you have a great lady who was betrayed by the man who was supposed to marry her. She'd had sons with him, and instead she kills herself and her sons and sets up the husband. I've heard in different stories, in this one, that she's setting him up for a theft of money. I've heard versions where she sets him up for their deaths. And so, that's supposed to be the revenge. But the revenge doesn't happen. He always gets pardoned. He gets out of it. He escapes. He gets away. And so down the generations, she is searching for vengeance by trying to take all of his other sons. Or children.
And as is the case with a lot of these kind of stories, a lot of times they get kind of morphed into, you better behave or she's going to come get you.
Very much so, very much so. Now, it's interesting because one of the places that I've seen this story told as sort of a campfire story was in Mexico, but it was in a region that had a lot more rivers and water features. And so there it was very much told as she comes out of the water. You can't misbehave near the water if you're goofing around, if you're playing around, if you're not doing what you're supposed to, if you swim out too far, if you go out after dark and swim, all the things that would be dangerous for children, then La Llorona can come and get you. And so this is interesting that there's no water in this one at all, really.
And I've always heard the story that there's not poison, but that she drowned the kids, and that's where the water...
and then, yes, in that version, she drowned them instead of poisoning them. But
right. So how do we morph this tale into a luchador story, into a saint or Santo story. Well, you kind of embellish the backstory a little bit, and you have a professor who happens to know Santo, which is a trope of a lot of these movies. Santo knows all the professors, all the police, everybody, because he's Santo. And the professor gets Santo involved because the professor has figured out where this stolen gold that was used to set up the husband ended up, and wants Santo's help in getting the gold and for ending the curse, because the professor happens to be a descendant of the husband that got away with it.
And I feel like, especially for a mid-70s film, I want to give Santo some credit straight off here, that he first off hears this offer and he goes, I'm not a grave robber. I'm not going to like defile graves and stuff. Why would I do that? Just for some money or whatever? And he has to be kind of lured into it with the promise of helping children down the ages and helping children if they can find the money.
Yeah.
Sort of a thing. So it's an interesting way that you could see how the plot develop as he's trapped into the situation.
How old do you think he is at this point?
I would have said mid-30s.
He's 54 years old.
Wow.
He's 54. He was born in 1917.
Wow.
So maybe he was 53 when they produced the film.
Yeah.
Released in 74. He wore that mask everywhere. And this is part of luchador culture.
Right.
You and I watch professional wrestling, so you're aware of luchador culture.
Oh, yeah.
And all that, and the importance of...
You don't take off your mask. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Fuego del Sol. But yeah, you don't take off the mask. And Santo was very proud about that mask. At the end of his life, he did, quote unquote, accidentally take the mask off on camera in a television interview. Mm-hmm. There have been some theories that he did it on purpose to finally give everybody a glimpse of his face, that he supposedly knew that they hadn't gone away to commercial yet. Bottom line is he was buried in the mask.
Brilliant.
His grave, his tombstone
has a picture of it, yeah.
Has him with the mask. And this is something that's very, very important to them. And this is even kind of played up a little bit in this movie when the professor's nieces, like, I sure would like to see what you look like without that mask. Oh, I can't take off the mask. I may have many friends, but I also have many enemies. And this is just a way to kind of protect his identity. And I loved that too. Mm-hmm. So that does get mentioned. A lot of times it doesn't even get mentioned. It's just a fact of life. The luchadors walk around town looking dapper with a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I liked about this is that he's got a buddy, a sidekick, which a lot of times they will team them up. Luchadors will, a lot of times in their movies, will be Santo and Blue Demon versus Dracula's daughter, or Blue Demon and whoever does this, or the Champions of Justice, which is like 7 of them teaming up to go do something.
Okay.
In this one, though, for whatever reason, he doesn't get teamed up with another luchador. Now, the stories have been that Santo and Blue Demon really didn't get along.
Okay.
They teamed up on screen all the time. And Mil Mascaras supposedly didn't get along much with anybody, but he was also much younger than the other ones.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say. But in this one, he gets teamed up with a boxer named Mantequilla.
Mantequilla, yeah.
Mantequilla
Nápoles.
Which is Spanish for butter. He was a real boxer. This is his only fiction film.
Oh, wow.
He is a member of the Boxing Hall of Fame. He was a welterweight champion for several years. So there was a year where he wasn't, and then he came back in and took it again. And I don't know how he got involved in the production, but good for him.
He did a great job.
It was the best boxer wrestler team up I've seen since Rocky 3.
Okay.
A Rocky and Hulk Hogan fight.
I felt like he had his acting skills matched everybody else. Is that fair to say? I'm not saying this is the best acted film of all time. The villains are cheesy and, I mean, not La La Reina, but, the mafioso villains are pretty cheesy. And I was making some jokes about the girls being Latina Mandy Moore and Anne Hathaway.
And as he said it, I could not see anything other than Mandy
She
Moore.
really looks like Mandy Moore, yeah.
Yeah.
In the most adorable way.
Yeah.
Mandy, if you're listening, she's adorable.
Oh, I'm sure she's listening. Huge mom.
But no, it was great. I hate that they voiced over the little girl, but I'm sure they had to. It was not good. It was an adult doing a kid's voice. That was my one kind of complaint. It broke it a little bit for me. But you know what I have zero complaints on?
What's that?
The monster herself.
She was cool, right?
She was cool.
She was very cool.
She was well done. She had the walk down. The outfit was great. The makeup was amazing.
And it was just a mask, I'm sure. But
Yeah,
they had like an eye dripping out. Yeah, that's
awesome.
great. And every time she turned up, they had that smoke turning up.
Yeah.
The presentation of the mummy of
La Reina. Yeah.
was fantastic. I cannot roll my R's. I can't.
You could just say La Donna because she's a Donna, you know, she's a lady.
Oh, okay.
The lady, La Donna.
Well, she was awesome. I'm definitely going to give her props there. The monster presentation was super cool. This was directed by Miguel Delgado, who is not a name that I think of when I think of luchador movies.
Okay.
Because he didn't direct very many of them. But he did direct over 130 movies during his lifetime.
Oh, well, okay. Prolific director.
Very prolific. He and the writer Francisco Cavazos, Frankie C, did a few luchador movies, but worked in a lot of other Mexican cinema as well. Usually you see some other regular names, and I think longtime listeners know who those names are that I'm not going to try to pronounce because I'll get them wrong, but I'm sure they'll come up later this month with Kenny or Robert Kelly when he comes on to talk about some of these movies as well. But yeah, I really like this one a lot.
I really appreciated it. And you could tell like the thugs, all the mafioso thugs were clearly either boxers or wrestlers that like you guys knew and even there were just one or two little moments where you kind of caught someone smiling a little bit. Like they're bent over, but they're smiling because they're like, yeah, that hit well, you know?
Yeah.
And the throws. And I really appreciated Santo clearly never skips leg day.
Never.
See,
it was weird to watch this one because when I watched some of the earlier Santo movies, early 70s, late 60s, his go-to move is an octopus stretch.
Okay.
Now, he does do some of the leg toss things in those movies, but he does it a lot in this. And I'm thinking, the guy's in his 50s, he's got some core strength for days.
Yeah, he's built that core strength, that leg strength, so even when the biceps are falling off a little bit as he ages, he's still got it to throw these big, big guys around. I mean, dudes that are as big as some of the big guys in AEW or WWE today, you know?
And you nailed it when you said that you could tell there are other wrestlers in boxes. To make more comparisons to modern day wrestling, whenever there's something happening on screen in a wrestling show and there's a bunch of extras, where do they get those extras from? Wrestling.
Local wrestlers and stuff. But I really appreciate it because it's something I've seen in other media from that era. I'd say probably more on the American side, but also some European stuff that I've watched, having, you know, lived there briefly. You tended to get like stunt people that were some of the smaller, scrappier guys that clearly had been dressed up into the parts. And then it's like, oh, we found some big guys that look like Derek, but have never actually wrestled in their life. And they're going to stand here and catch a few punches, in quotes, and then go down. But they're not wrestling, you know, or they're not fighting. And then your little scrappy guy's actually fighting. You're like, okay, that's the stunt coordinator right there. But here, because it's all real wrestlers, real fighters, real boxers, real, I assume in some cases, maybe martial arts people that have studied that, you know, they know what they're doing and you don't have to hide the faces. Well, I mean, Santo, but that's sure. Other than his actual mask, nobody's having to have a stand-in. You can just have the fight, go for it, and it looks really, really cool.
I think the boxing maybe could have used a little bit more choreography, but that's okay. You know, whatever. We didn't watch this because, you know, this is boxing.
Right.
De Mayo. This is, you know, Lucha de Mayo.
And I think because these are supposed to be films for the family and for young people to go see, they clearly didn't want a lot of blood. In fact, at one point, the bad guys go, let's leave our guns behind so that the police won't be on us. I was laughing at that. Like,
yeah.
Or also because it's a family-friendly movie and we don't want to shoot Santo.
True. But even when some people do get shot, No bullet hits.
No.
No blood splatter, which is pretty typical for these movies.
Well, I mean, they mainly shoot the mummy, so.
Well, they do shoot the mummy, but like when the professor gets shot.
That's true. He just goes down.
Goes down.
It's a very 1950s stage shot fall. Yeah. No packing, no nothing. Yeah.
Now, some of the earlier ones aren't as slick or colorful. I prefer my luchador movies to be in color.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them were in black and white, especially Santo's earlier films.
Sure.
Were in black and white because that's just what they had back then. And those are good, but I feel like once they go color, they have this veneer of the 60s Batman TV show kind of.
I mean, those sweaters alone.
The outfits, man.
The outfits were amazing.
Oh, the boxer and the cardigan, and I don't know what he was wearing.
Even the bad guys had fly outfits. Everybody was dressed on point.
Well, first time we see them, and you can tell they're kind of posed just right.
Yeah.
The one guy leaning to the side and the three in the back looking tough, and and the guy with the hat and everything. You even made a comment about, what a motley crew, and they were posed perfectly. They're so good. And then the main villain, he's got that Van Dyke mustache and everything going with the flashing lights behind him. Because why not? And he was super cool too.
Yeah, I mean, if he was Canadian, he'd be tying the girl to a train track at this point.
Right.
So, yeah.
Some of the earlier luchador movies, and I think you probably heard me talk about this, they would include a wrestling match or a wrestling scene or two. Sometimes not even something they shot for the film, but an actual match from something else that they would then use as stock footage to work into the film. In this case, we didn't have that.
I think they filmed things for this.
They did. And a part of the reason they did that is because back in the day, in the 50s and 60s, not everybody in Mexico had a TV to watch wrestling.
Right, yeah.
And this was the only way they would actually be able to see wrestling is in one of these movies. But now we're in the mid-70s. And
even the characters are now watching Santo and Mantequilla on TV.
Yeah. So
multiple times.
Television technology or television availability is a little bit more widespread. And because of that, I saw something in this that I've never seen in a luchador movie. Studio wrestling. It's very different than arena wrestling.
Yeah. There's no audience visible.
It could be a studio audience, but we don't know. But it's a different vibe. Mm-hmm. And I even noticed it here. Like, I think the most modern day example of studio wrestling is what Billy Corgan does with the NWA.
Okay.
Where it's all in studio, or Memphis wrestling, which I actually prefer to NWA. But it's all in studio, which means you can't get super high. You aren't getting a lot of ladder spots and things like that. And there might be a studio audience, so you got to be careful about how far you throw people out. It's different.
Yeah.
The moves aren't as big either because you're not worried about somebody all the way in the back seeing you. You've got maybe 3 rows of people to entertain, and that's it.
And the camera's right there. Yeah. Exactly. You're playing to the camera, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, even more so. The hard cam is right there. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've seen that in a luchador movie before. I've always seen the arena wrestling. Now, of course, we also get the wrestling outside where Santo is taking on the thugs and doing the wrestling moves.
Sure.
I love that. And the wall. I even made a comment. His best tag team partner in this movie is that wall that he keeps slamming people into.
And pushing his back off of so he hits people away.
I really enjoyed it. I will be a little critical. I feel like it ended kind of, okay. I wanted a bigger ending.
Okay.
I don't know how the ending should have been, but it just kind of stops. We've got the music. It's kind of intense. There's almost a chase scene, but not really. The monster's in there with the kids and
taking her time.
That's it. We deliver the gold to the orphanage and that's the end.
And she pops.
Yeah. So I was a little like, I don't know how you would have done it differently. I wish the boxer saw her.
I do wish that Mantequilla or whatever the butter could have gotten a look, because man, did he want one.
He really wanted to see her. This is the whole point, that he's along for the ride.
This is his only Santo movie, so it's not like he's getting another shot.
Right. I love that when
Santa's like, you want to see a ghost? Yeah. What about like a mummy? Yeah, whatever. I'm up for it. You name it, buddy.
That's all you had to say.
Are they going to be drippy and corpse-like? Let's do this thing. Vamonos.
See, you had me at Walking Dead.
Yeah.
In that scene, I remember specifically, too, when he's talking to his buddy. It's in the gym. It's in the training room. And there was some poor sap behind him jumping rope.
Yeah.
Non-stop.
I know. I was like, and the award for jumping rope goes to...
I don't know how many times they had to shoot that, but the minute he started, it's like, oh, that's great. Now do it for every take.
Yeah.
We're going to be here half the day. Ma. Who am I kidding? They didn't take half a day to shoot a scene in this thing. It moves pretty quick. It's pretty clean, pretty lean. Poor man's process for any of the car stuff. Some of the other luchador movies, they get a little bit more fancy with the cars.
Although the outdoor scenery and the cave scenery, I thought was great.
The cave was fantastic, wasn't it?
It was a really good cave. Like,
yeah.
The
cave was great with the cobwebs and everything else. So good. I'm a little disturbed that apparently in Mexico, it only takes, I don't know, a few hours by car to go anywhere where something spooky could happen. Like just outside of town, move a few rocks. There's the mummies. The other side of town, move a few rocks. Hey, here's a bunch of tombs. Let's open those. Oh, well. That happens in all the movies, I suppose. Butter also seemed a little shocked with the whole, you wanted to see a corpse. You wanted to see a ghost. So when you open a tomb and the first thing that you grab when you reach in.
He's like, oh, it's a skull. And I'm like, it's a wall of tombs, guys.
What did you expect? You signed up for this. This is why you said yes, Santo. I love these movies. They make me really happy. And I'm really glad that we kicked off this month with this one. Because I know that with Kenny, he wants to do like the first Blue Demon film.
Uh-huh.
And I think, if I remember correctly, Robert Kelly wants to do one with Santo and like Singing Cowboys.
Oh, okay.
Which is another staple of a lot of early Mexican cinema. Lots of singing cowboys. Because.
Yep.
Because. Do you think a movie like this would work today? I mean, we had movies with wrestlers in them. And we have movies from the 80s, at least, that had wrestlers playing wrestlers. But do you think a wrestling movie would work today?
I would like to see more movies of this type. And one of the things I would like to see, and I don't know, with the economy's been crazy lately, both locally, nationally, and worldwide, and all these other things. I would like to see a cheaper movie option again for young people to just be able to go to movies and stuff. Because, I know in the 50s and 60s, you had dime and quarter movies and things. We had, for a while, $3 and $5 theater tickets. And I feel like when you have those options, you open up more space in the movie business for inexpensive, family-friendly films. Let's use people that are in the celebrity awareness, but they're not like peak celeb. They're not an actor that you're going to have to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to. They have their own reason for wanting to be in it, popularity-wise, and all of that. I think maybe you could do something like that. I mean, I really enjoyed seeing Tony Storm in the movie we went and saw, so in Queen of the Ring. So
I wonder if a movie like this would, if you could do this. Now,
I wish there were more movies for young people, and maybe the answer to that is that those movies appear on streaming somehow instead of on, the big screen, although it's always fun to get to see stuff big screen too, but maybe streaming is the option on that, because they don't have to be very high budget.
No.
You can use the stuff you have, you can use the people you have, you can use wrestlers that are up and coming that just want to be seen on screen, so they don't care if they make a ton of money doing the movie. It's the popularity and the fame of it that they're going for. So you can save money that way and keep ticket prices lower, so you can make it a more family-friendly movie. I'd love to see more of that.
I don't think I'm blowing anybody's mind when I say this. Pro wrestling is scripted. It's not real competition. It's real athleticism, But in terms of like...
The movies are real, but the storylines have been somewhat prearranged.
Exactly. In a movie like this, in the luchador movies, it is completely 100% real. It's not... There's not a writer. There's not agents and producers. It's Santo getting into a fight. And he's really fighting for the championship. Which, back then, the holes in whether or not... in the veil of whether or not pro wrestling was real hadn't been completely opened up and exposed yet, I suppose.
So is that feeling of yeah.
We call it's called kayfabe.
Authenticity.
Oh, there we go. So I wonder if a wrestling movie today would work like this, if we had to believe the wrestling was real. I mean, even the movie you just talked about, Queen of the Ring, they make it clear all the way through until the very end, spoiler, it's a shoot, which is then a real match, but otherwise it's all kind of pre-planned or whatever. So I don't know if could we get away now with pop culture awareness of what wrestling is with a luchador movie like this, I wonder.
I know superhero movies have CGI and I still enjoy them, so I think we can. I think if you have the right story, and I think that's the key. You have to have good stories that touch people's hearts, and I think that's what this did back in the day for, your average 10-year-old boy in Mexico and the 10-year-old boy in all of our hearts, So I think if you can touch people's hearts and if you can capture the imagination of the young people, then yeah, I think you can make it work. I think there's room for that in modern media, and what a wholesome, nice story.
Right. Yeah. It's not bloody at all. Yeah. There's a corpse, but it's not gruesome. It's a pretty dry corpse. It's a mummy. And maybe that's another reason why they did a lot of mummies in the luchador movies. They're dry. They don't.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. They're not bleeding. They're not. Yeah.
They're not dripping all over the place. And you're right. It is wholesome, which is something that Santo was very firm on. In fact, there's a story of one of the movies that he did that the producers then later went and shot some scenes that involved nudity and all that. Santo was not happy with this at all because it immediately made it not family friendly.
Sure.
Whereas Santo was all about the kids and all about the family. And
that's made very clear, yeah.
A lot of the luchadors were like that. Like Blue Demon adopted a kid, that in real life. Mm-hmm. But in a lot of the movies, Santo's got an adopted kid or is taking care of the orphans. Same with Blue Demon. So I don't know. I really like it. I want more stories like this. I wish there were more. Mil Mascaras did do a series of 3 kind of sort of modern day luchador movies.
Okay.
I've only seen 2 of the 3 because I've not been able to get my hands on the 3rd. I wish I could. Mil Mascaras being younger, it was still active, at least in the 90s and early 2000s. And actually did some appearances for the WWE at one point. I think it was WWF back then. But I would like to see more myself. I think it'd be fun, to see something a little bit more low budget, working with wrestlers, doing what they normally do anyway. That'd be fun. So somebody make that movie for me and I'll cover it on Monster Kid Radio, on the Bride of Monster Kid Radio.
And in the meantime, have a taco for us, spin your lightsaber, and whether you're a wrestler, a boxer, or just a big old nerd like us, call your mother. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Huge thanks to Mark for being part of the show this week. I love having him here on the show. And huge special thanks to Beth for working with me to figure out a movie to talk about and to have her be involved in Lucha de Mayo here on The Bride of Monster Kid Radio. I had a grand time watching the movie and talking about the movie with her here on the show. And I'm curious, I brought it up with Beth. Would a modern day movie featuring wrestlers as superheroes, as wrestlers, work? What do you think? I'd love to hear what you think. Shoot me an email at monsterkidradio@gmail.com, or maybe even just call and leave us a voicemail at 360-524-2484. I'd love to know what you think. Would something like this work? Are there movies out there now that I'm just missing? If so, I need to watch them. So I need your recommendations. But even if you can't recommend one, what do you think? Would a modern-day wrestler movie work in which the monsters and the wrestlers tussle and get it on inside the ring? I'm not even saying they have to be luchadors, although bonus points if you're wearing a luchador mask. Anyway, big thanks to Beth, big thanks to Mark, and big thanks to you, dear listener, for you being part of the Monster Kid Radio experience for me. Just means the world to me, knowing that I've got somebody who's interested in this kind of stuff on the other end of this recording, enjoying themselves, having a good time, and hopefully sharing with your Monster Kid friends out there, luchador-loving friends, doesn't matter. Please share the post, retweet, like, post, whatever it is people do on social media. We're all over social media. You can find me on Facebook, on X, on Blue Sky, Reddit, Patreon, Instagram. We do have a TikTok. I don't do enough with it. We're all over the place. So just look us up and maybe like the posts and share things and all that, because the more traction we can get online, getting more people aware of what we do here, well, it makes the party even better, because the more Monster Kids, the merrier. Am I right? I think I'm right. MonsterKidRadio.net's where you're going to find links to everything that we've talked about here on the show. You're also going to find our contact information. Again, that's monsterkidradio@gmail.com, or our voicemail line, which is 360-524-2484. You're going to find our Amazon affiliate link over there as well. You're going to find a link to Small Town Monsters, which is a group that Mark Matzke's involved with. You're going to find everything you need over there. I don't know why you're not there now. Well, okay, actually I do. You're listening to this show. But when you're done listening to this show, head over to monsterkidradio.net and check it out. Or patreon.com/monsterkidradio, because that is where I make announcements about the podcast first. And you don't even have to be a paying patron to take advantage of that. You just follow the show over there. Be a free patron, and you'll be notified of everything coming up here on the show first. Then we'll also make sure it's mentioned elsewhere, but patreon.com/monsterkidradio, that's where it's at. I know that we are all waiting with bated breath for the announcement of the winners of this year's Rondo Hatton Classic Horror Awards. Fingers and tentacles crossed that Larry Underwood, aka Dr. Gangrene, gets inducted into the Monster Kid Hall of Fame. I cannot wait for the announcement of the winners. It is a lot of work that David and company do over there. So I'm being patient, but head over to rondoaward.com to learn more about what the Rondo Awards are. And when they're announced, I'm sure we're going to comment on them here on the show. Also, you heard earlier an ad for Monster Bash, which is the premier classic monster convention happening. Well, now it happens twice a year, but the big show happens in the summer, June 20th through the 22nd in Pittsburgh at the Marriott North Hotel. Head over to creepyclassics.com to find out what's going on with Monster Bash and all things Creepy Classics. monsterbash.us will also get you there. Go check that out. We're not going to be able to go this summer, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't. Really, you should. Monster Bash. It's amazing. And some year I will be back there, and I'll bring Beth along because she wants to go too. Oh, it'd be amazing. Oh, so many awesome monster events happening coming up over the next several months. If you are aware of any, please drop me a line or call in, or heck, call in while you're at one of these events, and we'll include you in a future episode of The Bride of Monster Kid Radio. Bride of Monster Kid Radio is a Team Death production. All original content of Bride of Monster Kid Radio is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 Unported license. You can learn more about Team Death, our other projects like Death Designs, Mail Order Zombie, the Team Death YouTube channel, and more at www.teamdeath.com. Remember, death is spelled D-E-T-H. All previous episodes of this podcast, as well as the original Monster Kid Radio podcast, are available at www.monsterkidradio.net. Please rate and review Bride of Monster Kid Radio wherever you download your favorite podcasts. El Hijo de El Santo is copyright 2022. Los Daytonas. You can find them over at losdaytonas.bandcamp.com. Check out their album Toublemaker, as well as their other albums. Let them know that you heard about them here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. My name's Derek M. Cook. I'll talk to everybody next week when we have another luchador movie. And man, I can't wait. Ciao.
Esperado por todo el público. Los medios de comunicación impresos y electrónicos lo siguen calificando como el número 1. Con ustedes,